I just finished watching The Voyeurs and I have no idea what I watched. Like, no idea. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Kaya Simone, and if you're new here, welcome to my commentary, entertainment, lifestyle, whatever the heck I think of channel. Today we'll be talking about The Voyeurs. If you don't know what The Voyeurs is, aren't you a little blessed, little gorgeous little child? Like, you have obviously have a nice life and like are so okay. You slept really well last night. I did not sleep well last night. But unfortunately for you, I'm going to tell you about this film. It's a new Amazon whatever like they do now. I've never reviewed a Prime Video movie original on my channel, and I'm doing that now. If you don't know, Amazon recently bought MGM Studios. So I think they've been trying to give you more of a upscale, high budget film, and The Voyeurs is definitely something I think could have been in theaters, but it's rated R. I'll get more into it, but it's very, very graphic, more than I was prepared for just watching after work one day. The Voyeurs is about two couples who live in apartment buildings across from each other, and one of them likes to watch the other, as voyeurs do. If you don't know, voyeur means a person who gains sexual pleasure from watching others when they are naked or engaged activity. I don't know if I don't care. I'm not at any point to be demonetized, but if the one day when that happens, if you want to contribute to my future monetization, please remember to like and subscribe to this video. Greatly appreciate it. The movie opens up to a lovely little interracial couple, and one of them is speaking French, and I'm like, okay, are they in France? Are they speaking Français? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't have any context beyond that. And my first thought when I saw them, I was like, hey, that's that annoying bitch from White Lotus. Wow, love to see you here. And my second thought was, oh God, both of these people seem so freaking insufferable. How the F am I going to get through this movie?
You deserve it. You deserve all the hangovers in the world.
I do.
You do.
I do.
And like, why can't I just review one movie that I actually enjoy? Like, I would have loved to have brought you this movie and be like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Like, I loved every single moment. I'd be like, no, it didn't happen. This is kind of where things start to pick up. They're like building their chemistry. They're laying the scene. They're laying the vibe. We see them in this nice, fancy apartment somewhere in some French-speaking place. There's like these big windows, and they're settling in there for their very first night, and they notice that they can see the apartment across from them, like clear as freaking day. They can see into this apartment. I honestly do not understand why people leave their blinds open. My blinds closed like a sane person. Only sociopaths leave their blinds open, especially at night. I did a video like kind of recently called The Wind in the Window, kind of like the same similar premise about where this woman, she notices something happened in an apartment across from her, a murder. She kind of questions her sanity. And so I'm definitely starting to pick up vibes from that. If you want to see that video, linked up here. And I'm like thinking, okay, cool. I knew this was like a mystery thriller, so I'm guessing there's murder. If everyone does not end up dead at the end of this film, why are we even watching this? They, of course, see this couple, and their responses to this are so freaking childish. I swear that they're teenagers instead of like grown-ass adults.
It's a nice play. Oh, kissy, kissy.
Like, they're like, oh wow, look at them, like, and they just like this, like, they kissing? Like, what? Things start to slowly heat up for the other couple, and they are full on going at it. And our couple here starts to speculate that the couple know that they're watching, because otherwise, why do they have their blinds open? Because like, I wouldn't, you wouldn't. I mean, this couple is and that couple is, but like everyone else wouldn't. So like normal people would not. And we're starting to like get the wheels turning, like, okay, obsession vibes. They're watching them, getting more invested in their life. Here, Pippa. So there are two main characters that like we're following the interracial couple are Pippa and Thomas. I'm just gonna call her Pippa. I like that name better. Like Pippa Middleton, Pippa. Pippa tries to go and seduce Thomas. He's not feeling it. And like, I'm like, okay, all right, maybe they're going to use this like voyeur thing to spice up their romantic life. Like, Love that for them. Not my scene, not my vibe, but whatever it takes for you, whatever it takes. Days continue and they slowly start watching this couple and they start creating their own background for them, giving them made up names. Margot and I just looked this up. I literally just looked this up. I literally just fucking looked this up. Margot and Brent. They gave them the names of Margot and Brent. And they're watching, and this is like our very first thing that they're overly invested and might have some speckle of being really interested in like intervening in their lives. So they notice that the guy, Brent, is choking. And they're like, oh my gosh, what should we do? Like, why does she not notice? They talk about, should we call the police? And like, oh no, they'll know that we're talking. But then finally the wife across the street like notices and like saves him. And like the way that they are having their entertainment, they're like jumping up and down, they're screaming like, oh my gosh, it worked. And like they're treating this thing like it was a Super Bowl. And I'm like, okay, I think they are starting to get a little too invested. And I think this is going to turn into like a movie like Obsession or Single White Female, and they're gonna go stalk them and then kidnap them and then have them live out their little voyeur fantasies forever. There's just like one scene where Pippa wakes up in the middle of the night, Jonathan's asleep, and she's literally giving crazy eyes to the Seb next door, and I'm like, oh fuck. It's gonna be Pippa, isn't it? Pippa gonna get in some trouble. Like I noticed you, girl. I'm not like kink shaming. It's a kink free open space here. Like whatever, do you boo. But like she went in and got binoculars, so like she can get a clearer view into this apartment. That's a little much. It's a little much. That's all I'm saying. It's a little much. And like, so we're getting all these things, like building up things. So Seb, who's actually a photographer, has a model over her and starts touching her. And Pippa and like Jonathan are watching, and she's like, yeah, let's recreate. And Pippa's like, yeah, let's recreate this. Like, let's watch them and let's like do it ourselves. And like in that moment, I was like, I am full on watching. And I was like, I wasn't expecting that. It was like a lot more graphic than I was prepared for just watching my like Amazon Prime Video. I was not prepared. And I'm just like, Pippa, like you little freak. I had no idea. I mean, yes, she bought the binoculars, but I had no idea, girl, you're like, this was like your scene. You were just. And so she continues to like wake up in the middle of the night and watches them like they're her own personal showtime. And she starts to get more invested and wanting more about their lives and what they're up to, what their conversations are like. And somehow she talks Jonathan into like, let's go sneak into their apartment. Like for Halloween. Like, yeah, it's Halloween. Let's go dress up. Let's go. And I'm like, what? And they do this because they have this crazy idea to plant a mirror in their apartment so they can use a laser from their apartment to like the other people's apartment so they can hear their conversations versus just planting a microphone like normal people. I'm no scientist, but I definitely did not learn in my physics class that this was possible. Maybe it is, but this felt like very pseudoscience, and I would love to try it, but I don't have a laser. I also can't see clear into apartment across from me. I'm sorry, I cannot. Somehow though, like this actually works. And they hear a couple arguing, and it turns out Seb is actually a philanderer. Like, I think I mentioned this earlier. Like he has like been sleeping with all the models. Like he takes photos of them and like sleeps with them. Seb, I just said Seb. I know their names are Seb and Julia because I watched the film. I'm sorry, you know them as Margot and Brent, but they're also Seb and Julia. You can get it, it's fine. And they hear that Julia is kind of confronting Seb about like his like philandering, and she's like, why don't you like love? He's like, why are you sleeping with me? And Seb starts gaslighting her. I am literally upset. I hate gaslighting. I hate lots of things, but like I hate gaslighting. It's literally one of the things I hate the most in this particular moment in life, because the idea that someone will try to change your sense of your reality because they cannot handle their own guilt and their own feelings about things, and they're so manipulative to their core that they have to change your whole perception to make you believe something so you feel like you're crazy. And like he kept deflecting because like he was a cheater and everything, and he's like, oh, you don't love me anymore, and like you're so insecure, otherwise like why would you do this? And I was like, what the fuck, Seb? I thought you were just a hot in an open relationship, but like now like ugh, like literally Our mystery woman shows up at the eye doctor's office where Pippa works. good thing that she works in a place people can just visit. Like, I don't. Like, you can't just walk into my office building. They'd be like, where's your badge? We have security. You know, you can't do that where I work. We learn our mission with Margot is actually named Julia, which you already know. Somehow they hit it off. Julia asks Pippa to hang out later. They set that all up. I'm like, will it actually happen? Probably, because movies. Since they can hear them, they see that their mystery guy, Sebastian, Brent, whatever, has been coercing his models into sleeping with him, and by telling them that, hey, usually my photography sessions cost like $200, but like I'm doing this for you for free, so you should be grateful. And I'm like, a-hole, a-hole, a-hole. I really hope things end up really poorly for you. Like, I was at that point, I was like, do not know what this film was. It was a film. It also comes in like a 2 hours. Like, it's a very long film. Justin, like a normal person, starts to have some reservations about watching this couple and getting more invested in their lives. But Pippa is like all in. Pippa realizes that she can print to the printer across from them. Like, I guess, I don't know how this works. Technology. I know it's a thing that happens. Okay, why? But I'm guessing you're gonna tell me, so tell me now. And so she prints out a thing on a printer and to tell Julia that her husband's cheating on her. If this was me, I'd be so paranoid. I'd be like, was this a stalker? Like, what's this printer? I'd have literally thrown my printer on the ground and broken it then and there. Like, I've been like, brah, what is this printer doing? But like, nope. I'm always iffy about telling someone if someone's cheating on them or they're doing something behind their back. Just like it either turn around against you really negatively, or like people always know and like they just haven't willing to confront it. I don't think it's my place or your place to tell them unless you're really good friends with them, then tell me. But like if you're a stranger, I don't need to know that from you. I just don't. Justin starts to realize, just like I did, that the moment Pippa bought binoculars, that this wasn't just fun and games and just a way to spice up their sex life, that this was full-on crazy person. Julia is full on distress after finding evidence of the cheating Pippa directed her to. Julia in the other apartment, she grabs a knife and like we see her going down in to stab the Seb guy, but she doesn't. And then they're having a whole conversation and they're like, oh gosh, okay, we've done too much now. We've really done too much in this couple's life to intervene. And Pippa promises Justin that this is it. Never do this again. Like, I promise, babes. Like, love you. Like, I just had a moment of like, don't know. Like, my Kindle was broken. Like, I just was like, didn't have anything to read. Like, I'm sorry. But it's too late because, trigger warning, I did not see this when I was like first watching the movie, but Julia effing kills herself. I knew that the only way that this would work out was that someone had to die. Justin walks out saying that he can't do this and Pippa wants him to support her, and I'm like, how could he? You know, like you literally just talked a stranger in and just like did this because you've been too invested in her life.
You ended that fucking woman's life! You did that! I don't even know you anymore.
Stop!
People do not have responsibility over someone's actions, but you do have the responsibility for what you say or do to other people, and sometimes those lead to negative consequences or positives. You don't have any responsibility on the effect, but you definitely do on the cause. You know, it's just like that kind of thing. Pippa has learned nothing from this and continues to watch Seb at night. But again, she stalks him and was watching him every night and noticed that he goes to a bar by their apartments, follows him down there. Little socio-psychopath this girl is. He comes up to her, starts talking to her, and he like starts going off at her. And I'm like, okay, he knows it was her. He knows. Like, if someone can see you, you can also see them back. So you're gonna tell me they didn't just once see them at all? But he goes on for basically about like how sleeping with other people is just the same as watching adult entertainment or like pleasuring yourself, as there's like no emotional connection involved. And I'm like, she's like, now you're gaslighting strangers to assuage your guilt. Like, they are not the same, especially if you entered into a contract with the other person you're with to set those terms. If you have and like both parties are fine, chill. But relationships are basically legal contract agreements where you set up terms up front, hopefully, and then you live the rest of your relationship based on those. You can reevaluate terms later. Disagree with that, it doesn't matter that you think it's fine. The fact that I disagree with that is what matters. he asked her to go back to her place to take a picture. And I'm like, Pippa girl, you like watched him with all his models. You know what this means. You know what she does? She says yes. He does his like signature move where he's like, hey, are you cold? Like you should take off that jump shirt. And she's like, okay. And he's like, okay, I'll take off my shirt too. And I'm like, who does this work for? Who does this work for? Please tell me who. But of course, it works. Things go further than photos. This movie is already so crazy. But guess who ends up watching them? Jonathan. Jonathan comes back to their old apartment with flowers in his hands. He's like drinks some drink, pours in the bird because it's like disgusting. And he looks outside and he sees across the way Peppa and Seb. And he's like, WTF, what is this? I was like, what is this? Like, I didn't really like you, but like, you didn't deserve this either. Like, you mean you were broken up, but like, Pippa, the morning after of her night of debauchery, comes home. This scene literally made me shout. I'm not gonna show it to you. I'll just show you the aftermath. But Justin has hung himself, and I am like, what even is this film? Where was my warning? Like, I really want to go back and like, no one prepared me for this. No one prepared me. And so we get this montage of like Pippa being really angry and like going her guilt and her, but we see her, like she sees a poster for Sebastian's art show as she's getting ready to go see her friend Ari. She goes see her friend Ari and she tells her everything that's happened, like the actual truth. And her friend's like, nah, girl, like, how could you know? It's not your fault. Like, how could you know? Like, how could you know that intervening in someone's life could have like other effects? And I'm like, Ari, you are a garbage friend. Like, there's some points you're being like a friend, but also like keeping them straight at the same time. But they end up going to the show, and like Sab comes up and says, oh, why didn't you come here? And like here my spidey senses are tingling. They're like tingling through my veins. And I'm like, oh gosh, this show is gonna be like one effing big thing and calling you out, Pippa, like for having his wife to kill himself, like, because how else is or him killing himself, like, because like that's just how this feels is moving. But nope, it's an even bigger plot twist than I even expected. And I have been watching thrillers for like ever. You know who walks in? Julia. Julia is alive and well after all.
Everyone, Julia. Come on.
And it turns out this was all just some big game for Seb and Julia to have a big art exhibit. Instead of them being the couple that people were watching, they were actually the voyeurs.
Pippa lives in the apartment we own across the way from our studio.
Turns out they actually own the apartment that Pippa was staying in. The whole premise of the show was like an allegory on how people care more about what's going on in other people's lives instead of their own, which is a very heavy-handed message.
The whole time that they were watching us.
Well, we were watching them.
Pippa has a full-on panic attack, goes and crashes into Seb and Julie's apartment, finds out their room, which is like literally insane, where they've been stalking them the whole entire time. She's breaking stuff. This is like, okay, and like we see her and I'm like, okay, this movie's ending. We watch her back in her apartment and she knows like there's dead birds dead outside. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting thing to put in and pick up. Epilogue. We see that Seb and Julie are interviewing in an interview, and they're saying that, hey, in their lease on the last page, it said that this is Kay. And I'm like, that's why I read everything. I read all 39 pages of my lease. Was there anything in there saying that they have privilege to take photos or record me? No, it did not. This is where we see Seb kind of start having a mental breakdown while Julie's all cool. I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe it was actually Julie the whole entire time who wanted to play this game, but Seb wasn't really expecting for her to go this deep and starting to feel guilty. They are sent this bottle of wine from a mysterious person who thinks it's fine because apparently their little exhibit Voyeurs has become like a whole international success and they're being rich off of it and like people love it. So like they're getting sent things all the time. They drink it and then the printer prints something, and the bombshell being that, hey, I know that Thomas didn't kill himself. And I'm like, woo, what is this? And then they look up and they notice that they see Pippa from outside, and like Julia and Seb start chasing her, and they end up at the place where Pippa works. And Pippa's like, hey, I know you guys killed him. It's my vengeance. And the dead birds were actually a clue, as Thomas had poured that into the feeder because he hated it the night that he died, of night of his alleged. Seb, even kind of like a scene over here where like, oh, Seb starts to realize that, oh damn, maybe Julia did kill him. You kind of like see him get those vibes like, oh, I actually was with a crazy woman this whole time and I had no idea. Julia and Seb, when I think they dropped dead, but in a super creepy moment, we see that both of them are on these tables and Pippa is checking their eyes and she's burning their retinas. And I was like, what the fuck? Then like, scene fades black. And then our epilogue, we see that there's a new couple who moves in. They're watching their neighbors like, oh wow, like can they see us? Like I'm like, oh gosh, is the cycle like starting again? But then we notice that it's actually Julia and Seb, and that she didn't actually kill them. They are blinded, so now they cannot see and be voyeurs again. Pippa is watching them for the last time and leaves her binoculars behind, but then she gives a glance backwards and we see her and it makes us think, oh, she hasn't actually learned a lesson at all. And that's what the movie ends. Fun. So fun. Final thoughts. Very long film. Not enough censor warnings. The description of this film was super vague. I was expecting like, but I was not expecting like, and like gaslight. Like there's like so many triggers in this film. Like honestly, I don't personally have any, but like there was like so many little ones like across the board that I was not prepared for. And I feel like this movie wanted to explain that a lot of people do things that they think will help the other person, but it actually helps themselves. But in reality, it's just to make yourself feel better, but is it actually making anyone else feel better? And I think that's what they were trying to go with the whole like Pippa telling Julia vibe. I think people also don't realize how much their actions affect other people. And like people aren't a game. In some cases, people assume they know how people feel and like will do an action expecting a result. And that's where the thing can go. And so I think the concept of the voyeurs, is interesting in that way, but it is a tad heavy-handed in how it does that. Did we really need one disguise? You know, like, did we need that? Did we really need Pippa to blind the couple who was like being voyeuristic as like revenge for everything they've done? No. And did I learn anything? No. I guess like, what did I learn? I learned that not to watch people across the street unless they have their full and consent. Like go over and knock the door like, hey, I know your blinds are open, like we're kind of into that, like are you cool if we like a watch on occasion? Not all the time, but like, you know, sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, sure, like cool, can you sign this? Like yeah, sure, like great, thanks, bye. But you know, anyway, that's like, I'm gonna finish this video. It's kind of confusing. I don't recommend watching this movie. You've literally had the whole recap at this point. If you're really super invested and watch all the amounts of like all these scenes played out, you really do get the sense of Pippa's kind of obsession and demise as a character. I think the whole Julia coming back switch thing is interesting. I think there's a lot of like character developments that were switching that I wasn't expecting. Like I wasn't expecting for Julia to be the actual villain and everything. I wasn't expecting Pippa to have like this whole like revenge arc that happened in the last like 15 minutes of the movie. I wasn't expecting that. I was thrilled. Was I thrilled in a good way? No, but I was thrilled. Yeah, so that's the end of this video. All right, thank you guys for watching. I'm Kai Simone. Please remember to like and subscribe as always, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.